No one likes to be cold. Naturally, we prefer a comfortable environment. And when it's cold outside, suddenly running becomes even harder to find that motivation for. However, with a bit of planning, there's no reason you can't get the same enjoyment and reward from running, whatever the environment. So today, we are going to be helping you to plan with a checklist for tackling running outside when the temperatures drop. Let's start off with layering. To keep warm, it's easy to think that you just want to put a bulky jacket on, which, yes, is warm if you're sitting around, but when it comes to running, you want to think about lots of thinner layers that allow you to move, but also trap the heat in and keep you warm. So start off with the base layer, and it's quite a good idea here to go for a long sleeve base layer that's close to the skin, so it'll fit nice and comfortably, and you can layer over the top of that. Look at the fabric. Something natural like merino wool is great because it doesn't get smelly and it feels nice against your skin. You could also go for compression type of top that's going to be really nice and tight. Alternatively, if you want to have a looser fitting long sleeve top, you could actually put a vest top or something tighter underneath. And when it's really cold, I personally wear a sort of fleecy longer sleeve top and then put a t-shirt underneath that. How many layers and what clothing you go for is entirely dependent on how cold the temperature is outside for when you're running. If you do want a long sleeve top as your base layer, then you can really simply add a short sleeve t-shirt over the top of that. And if you want more protection, if it's going to be wet or windy, it's great to keep your core dry and warm, and you can wear obviously a lightweight rain jacket or windstopper for that, or a gilet, which is quite nice because it keeps your shoulders free but your core is going to stay nice and warm. And again, there's no rule as to how you layer or which order what goes on, but think about your ultimate goal for that run. If you're doing a hard run and you know you're going to be on a track or doing loops somewhere where you can take some layers off, think about what you want to actually have as your base layer underneath. So if you're doing something really hard, you might actually want to have your arms free. So in that case, maybe you want a vest top or a t-shirt underneath your other layers. So once you've taken them off, that's what you're running in, and you can quickly put them back on again afterwards. If you're heading out for a longer run or somewhere where you can't leave your clothes and you're going to actually have to carry them with you, you need to think about how that will work. If you've got something long sleeve, it's quite simple. You can tie it around your waist. The same goes for a jacket or a t-shirt. If it's a smaller item like a t-shirt or something else, you can probably tuck that in your waistband or maybe even carry it in your hands. And there's one trick which I learned recently. I'm quite late to the party on this one, so you guys can shout at me if everybody else in the world knows. But if you've got a top that's got a full zip, whether it's short sleeved or long sleeve or sleeveless, you can simply take your arms out and then just zip it up high enough till it stays comfortably on your waist and your hands free. Again, this is personal preference, but you might want to play around with accessories for keeping your extremities warm. It's amazing what having warm hands and head can do for your overall feeling. And you might have noticed cross-country runners at even the top level running in just vest and shorts, but then they'll have gloves on and a headband, so they still have that freedom to move whilst keeping like they're feeling warm. I swear by gloves for running in the cold in the winter, and also a headband, and it's brilliant for just being able to step out without needing as many layers on your core. And if you do get too hot with your hands and your head, you can simply take them off and probably fit them in your pocket. Beware of the woolly hat. It is great for coziness, but we actually lose so much heat out of our heads, so as soon as you do start to get hot, you will really notice it with a hat on. And then the buff is brilliant when it's really cold. If it's extreme conditions, you can even put it over your mouth, but it just protects and makes you sort of feel like it's a little bit easier to breathe on your lungs. But I'm sure there are lots of you guys out there who run in far colder climates than we do here in the UK, and there'll be lots of other accessories I'm missing. So if you're shouting at me right now, please make sure you share those in the comment section below so we can all find out. Ensuring you have a thorough warm-up for any sport is obviously important, but when it comes to doing exercise in the cold, then it is crucial. And it's a good idea to start this before you even head out of the door. So do a bit of activation work and some general movement so your body and your core temperature is already a little bit warm and your muscles are just going to be that much more supple, so you're less likely to get an injury. Plus, you might find that you don't need quite as many layers to wear to start with, and you'll end up just having to carry those. If you've got a really hard workout plan, like a track session or something, then make sure you do a really thorough warm-up, maybe even more than you would do normally, so your muscles are ready to go. And this same theory carries over to actually within a session. So if you've got bits of rest planned, you might actually want to make them shorter when you're training in the cold, because your body will cool off that much quicker. So maybe just change the type of session that you're doing in the really harsh environment. And when it comes to the warm down, make sure you don't hang around too long before going to do your warm down, and quickly put those layers back on before your core gets cold. When the environment is harsher, forward planning becomes a little bit more important, especially with your route, because you don't want to be heading out the door and then wondering where you're going to go. And you also don't want to be getting lost if the temperatures are really harsh. And obviously check the forecast so you've got a bit of an idea of how many clothes you need to wear and whether it's going to be wet and windy as well, because that can actually make it feel much colder than the mercury might be reading. You might even want to adapt your route according to the weather. If it's going to be really windy or horizontal rain, then maybe plan somewhere that's a little bit more sheltered for running. And you want to think about after your run as well. If you're not able to get home straight away, pack some dry clothes so you can take off whatever might be cold and damp and sweaty and put on something warm. Because even if you feel warm at the end of your run, it's amazing how quickly you can actually drop that temperature, and then it's so hard to get going again. Same goes with actually when you get home, you might think, oh, I'm hungry, I'm going to sit and eat something. But it's a good idea to get in the shower before you cool off, because I find when it's cold outside, even if you feel warm, your temperature will drop, and it just takes so long to get back to feeling comfortable. It's easy to overlook hydration when it comes to running in the cold, because it's not so appealing to be sipping a cold drink, but it is still just as important. That said, you're not going to sweat as much unless you're wearing too many clothes as you would in hotter conditions. So you won't need to drink quite as much as in the summer, for example. You might even be able to do your longer run without a drink, which you previously haven't been able to manage. But when you get home, you still need to make sure you rehydrate adequately. If you are really cold, it's really tempting to have a hot drink. That's completely fine, but try to avoid any caffeine, at least until you're hydrated, and then you can catch up on your coffee intake then. As we've mentioned, heading out to run in the cold becomes a lot harder to motivate yourself. So why not make yourself accountable by adding a friend and making things a little bit social? So say you've already got a run of the group, or you've agreed to meet up with a friend at a set time. You have no excuse then. Layer up and off you head, and you'll feel so much better afterwards. Now, I am aware that quite a few of you guys who live in the proper cold countries are going to be laughing at us here in the UK when we're talking about the cold and there's not even a frost on the ground. Well, if that is you and you've got some wonderful tips that we've not even thought about for running in the cold, please do share them. If you have enjoyed this, give us a like, follow us on our social media channels, and why not subscribe to us here on YouTube as well.